think even cars, even circumstances, do you think you can beat any racer in the world?
And it's lights out and away we go here at Spa.
At one point, you have to be a little bit crazy to be a racing.
Would you say you're a little bit crazy?
I guess in my own way, yeah.
Would the people that know you best say that as well?
I think so.
Probably. Done combustion engine, you've done electric. Could you break it down in 3 points, the difference, Formula E versus Formula 1?
What people don't probably understand is Formula E drivers are probably as good as Formula 1 drivers. It's just perception that they are not in Formula 1, so they are not as good.
So if it came down to it, 1 lap, you rate yourself.
Yeah.
That's it, man.
Definitely.
That's the right mindset. Cool. Let's end on that.
Thank you.
Cheers, brother.
Cheers, bro.
Loved
Thank
it.
you. I'll go home and eat my dansa.
Dansa, of course, I'll have Parsi. Nicely. Alright, guys. Jehaan with me today. Thanks for coming, man.
No problem.
Appreciate it. So, how you doing, bro?
All good.
Good.
You're on holiday.
Yeah. How long is your holiday for?
Oh, so yeah, it's a bit complicated. Actually, my season it was Jan to July. Typically, testing starts in like October for the new season, but I still haven't signed a contract for next year. So currently, ongoing talks, negotiations to see if I'll be in Formula E next year.
Are you ever a part of those negotiations?
No.
No.
So my father and my managers, they are the ones who handle everything. They basically tell me to just drive and they'll handle the rest.
Fair enough,
Yeah.
man. But do you feel as though, like, do you tell your manager that, listen, dude, like, this is who I want to race for, like, push for this? Or, you know, right now, are you trying to re-sign for FE again?
Yeah, so typically the managers come with options to you and you would pick and choose which one you would prefer or which team you would rather. In this market nowadays, even in Formula 1 and Formula E, there's not too many options. You kind of have to go where there's space. And there are many drivers, if you don't take that spot, will take it in your VR. So it's difficult. Sometimes you want to wait for your option, but if you wait, you lose even the other seats. So you kind of have to just go with it and yeah, try to be in the car.
You know, people say that as a sport, racing is arguably the most competitive in the world because there's not that many spots. So, for example, Formula 1, there's what, 22 spots? You know, Formula E, something similar. How many spots
20.
are there? 20 spots, right?
20 or 22. Yeah.
So, say for example, if you don't sign and you don't want to race anywhere else, do you just train? Like, how does that work?
Oh, so yeah, I guess racing is quite a complicated sport in a way. Until you're in Formula E or Formula 1 or in Le Mans or IndyCar, you're not considered a professional driver because you're not earning money. So you start earning money only when you get to Formula E or Formula 1 or these levels that I spoke about. So yeah, in a way, it is different to other sports, and yeah.
What about like sponsorship money though, when you're in the earlier stages?
Yeah, so it's racing is everyone knows it's super expensive, the
Right.
sport. In theory, if you don't have sponsors or family backing, it's pretty much impossible to make it to Formula 1 or even in any sort of formulas. I think it's well known nowadays that racing is very, very expensive. So yeah, you need to have a lot of luck, a lot of backing, be at the right place at the right time to even go to the level that even I am in Formula E right now.
And in terms of family backing, when you first got started, you know, obviously you're born and raised in Bombay. Who was the person that pushed you? Was it your dad or your mom? How did it go?
Honestly, it was more me. So I started karting. I did one go-kart like session when I was 8 years old, and then when I was 9.5, I did this camp in Powai with Rayaman Banerjee, and then I was instantly hooked onto it. So I was pushing from a young age to get into racing. Luckily, my parents supported me from the beginning. They didn't actually know how expensive the sport would be or what I would do. My mom kind of thought I would do it for 1 or 2 years, you know, see that I'm not good enough and just
Stop.
stop.
And then join the business.
And then,
yeah.
yeah. But yeah, it all turned out the opposite. My parents have been pretty much coming to every single race of mine from when I was 10 or 11 years old. So they've been my biggest support. Yeah, and without their help, I would not be where I am today.
You're a family man, dude. It shows. Again, like I told you, like the people that know both of us mutually, you know, they have that to say about you. And in terms of You know how we spoke about it's we don't know why we're interested in what we're interested in. You know, I don't know why I picked up football. Do you know why you picked up racing?
I would say in general, I am quite a like adrenaline drives me. I don't like. I like doing things that scare me. Uh, just for example, when I was like a kid, I used to bungee jump without even caring. The older I grew, the more scared I got of heights. Now I'm actually scared of heights, but I just bungee jump because I love being scared. So I'm kind of just very much into adrenaline. Driving fast go-karts at the age of 10, being a bit out of control in them, kind of, yeah. It was just a lot of fun. So that's why I took up racing. I think when my dad used to drive fast on the road, I used to enjoy it as well. So yeah, it's always been a passion of mine.
You know, when you go really fast or you're kind of scared, there's that feeling that you get in your gut. You know, that little like shock of electricity. Like, do you still feel that, or is it dead now?
Oh, I wouldn't say it's dead completely, especially when it rains in single-seater cars with how the cars are designed. You honestly don't see much at all when you're following people. So you're so blind at such high speeds that, yeah, I guess your brain is telling you to kind of back off, but you cannot, in the end. So that is a little bit the only time I get butterflies in my stomach, like before qualifying or before the race. But once I'm in the car, there's too much concentration to even think about all the other stuff.
It's all instinct after a certain
Yeah,
point.
it's all instinct. It's all subconscious. You're not even thinking half of the time.
So when it's raining, like you said, you can't really see ahead. They have those videos in F1 where you can see the lights of the guy in front of you flashing. Does it then just come down to, okay, I have the track memorized, I know exactly when I have to turn? Like, how does that work?
So honestly, if you're not in the top 5 cars down the straight, you don't even see the car flashing in front of you. You don't see anything. So what happens is we have visual references on the side like boards. So you kind of know in the dry you brake at 80 or 90, and in the wet you'll brake at 150. So until you see the 150 on the left, you don't see anything. You start hitting the brakes, and as everyone slows down, the spray reduces and you can see the corner again. If someone were to stop halfway down the straight, you would just not see them. You would just go through them. So that's why, yeah, on TV everyone wants like the races to go ahead when it's really wet, but for the drivers it's not really that safe.
But how much of it is like, that, for example, I can compare to football because, in football, if you get injured, a bad injury, okay, like, like I told you, you break an ankle or you break a foot. In your sport, it's a little different, way more serious. So how do you reconcile with that? Because you still have to go 100%. You have to push. So how do you, like, when you know that, okay, I have a hard turn coming or whatever it may be, how do you manage your like your emotions at that time?
I think in this day and age, most drivers, or me for sure, I think with the level of safety that the cars have moved to, thanks to the FIA, you don't really think about hurting yourself too much. You kind of take it for granted that even if you hit a wall at 250, nothing's going to happen to you. So that kind of, I mean, racing is still really dangerous. People have lost their lives still in the last few years. So uh, yeah, at one point it is scary, but honestly, we don't think about
Don't
it
think
as
about that.
drivers. We just go out there and we take all the risks that we need to take to perform and do well.
You've had a couple bad crashes.
Yeah.
I think one in Abu Dhabi. If I have that right? What are your thoughts when you immediately get your bearings together right after the crash? What's that like?
I mean, the most difficult thing when you're crashing is because you're heading to a wall at such high speed. 1 second before you hit the wall, you know you're going to hit the wall. The problem is most drivers, we brace with our hands on the wheel, which we shouldn't be doing it. So that's when you snap your wrist and you break your bones and all that kind of stuff. You're actually meant to just leave your hands.
Like,
So
keep them close
keep
to your
them
chest,
close
like,
to you and let the belts stop you.
right.
If you do that 90% of the time,
Fine.
you're safe, but you're trying to not hit the wall, so you're still turning, and then you end up going in. Honestly, Abu Dhabi, so 2022, yeah, I had a big crash there in a high speed corner. The main thing is you're a bit out of breath, and sometimes you're you're a bit phasey. So when you get out of the car, you can't really
Little
stand.
dazed.
Yeah, dazed.
Yeah.
So normally always take precautionary checks so the FIA can measure the impact of the crash, and 90% of the time they take you to the medical center to
They
just
have
check
to.
if you're fine. Yeah.
Oh, let's just talk about Abu Dhabi. So you got into a crash. How soon were you in a car after that?
The next day.
Next
I
day.
was racing the next day.
Fine, no problems.
Yeah.
That comes down to, like we spoke about earlier, like the amygdala response, and it just isn't as activated as a normal person. But we get into that. But since we're starting, let's start from the beginning. Your entry into racing, like you said, karting. Then you joined the Force India Academy. Talk about your time there. Do you remember it? Like, what was that like?
Yeah, so actually that experience was probably one of the best experiences of my life. So what happened was at that time, Force India had a Formula One team. They were looking for the next Indian driver to go from karting all the way to Formula One. When they launched their program in India, their goal was to find one in a billion, basically, was it what it's called. But the age group was only 14 and 18, like the category. I was only 13 years old at the time, so I actually didn't.
You were too young.
I was too young to even enter the the competition. They were finding drivers all over India. So what they did was they were going to shortlist 100 drivers and then take them from 100 to 50, 25, 10, and then the one. Uh, what happened was they decided, like really last minute, to open a wild card category. So one person in the whole country would qualify below 14 and one above the age of 18. So the fastest time. And I got the fastest time below 14 by just 1/100th of a second. And then I qualified and ended up being one of the 3 winners. And yeah, without that, I don't see myself being where I am today. Because I went to Europe, they took us there. We always had the best mentors. We were driving in the best teams, doing a lot of testing, getting fit, learning how to handle yourself. So yeah, without being in that academy, I would have not been exposed to uh, motorsport
So
like
you
I am now.
attribute a lot of it to, the Force India Academy. Are they still, doing the same work, or because the
No.
team shut down now,
No,
it's all shut down?
it's all shit. Yeah.
So racing in India right now is, not looking, besides, like we spoke about Kushmeni, there's nobody really else coming through the ranks.
I think there are a few people coming, but the problem is currently you cannot race in India and be competitive in Europe. You kind of have to move out. There are a few good drivers here, but in Europe there's 200, 300, 400 karters who are, let's say the gap between first and 10th in India would be between first and 200th in Europe. So there's just the level is so high that everyone kind of goes there to become better.
Dude, it's like in everything, we just don't have the infrastructure. And the way I see it, okay, obviously racing, but pretty much any sport, but especially something like racing, like you have to have money, like you said. And if it isn't subsidized or promoted through other means, like the average person has no, they have no fucking way of getting into the sport. So the question is, as someone that's been through the ranks and all of that, like how does that, like how do we like change that?
I mean, factually and brutally, that's the harsh reality of racing. If you don't have money, or if you don't have money to start, then you cannot even. And nowadays, karting is even expensive. Formula 4 is expensive. I think the harshest thing about racing is even when you've had backing, you've spent all the money, you've delivered good results. Sometimes you don't go to Formula One. There have been drivers who have won Formula 2 the previous few years, and there's just no seat that opens for them. After 1 or 2 years, they are kind of forgotten and they have to go race somewhere else. So I think that is the hardest thing. You don't get a chance to even prove yourself against the best guys in the world when already, if you won F2, you are one of the best drivers in the world. So that's where racing becomes, really difficult. But that's just the nature of the sport. Yes, there's 22 slots, but in reality, only 1 or 2 open every couple of years. So the chance to make it to Formula One is really, really slim.
Do you feel you've been hard done by in your own career in terms of luck or maybe timing?
Yes and no. I think at some stages in Formula 2, yeah, things didn't go my way. I won a couple of races, I got disqualified from them, and yeah. So in the end, people forget. If you win and you get disqualified, no one really remembers.
Right.
It's kind of the nature of the sport. I would have finished in the top 3 in 2022 if not for even one disqualification. So, but that would have not changed anything.
That year, I think you finished 7th, if
Yeah.
I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah. So in the end, it wouldn't have changed anything. I didn't win F2, so yeah, I didn't. I don't really have any regrets that I didn't go to Formula One.
I mean, it is life's too short for regrets. Like,
Yeah.
you know, you can't sit and sulk. I think all you can do is really, you know, fuck it, this is the card that I've been dealt, so this is what I'm going to do.
Exactly.
But, okay, so from karting, you moved on to F3.
From karting, I went to Formula Renault,
Right.
which nowadays people go from karting to Formula 4. Then Formula 3, Formula 2, and now Formula E.
How big of a jump is it from, like you said, you were the second runner-up in the World Karting Championship. You moved to Formula Renault, Formula 3, 2. How big is the jump from level to level to level?
So the jump from so I drove a McLaren Formula 1 car 2 years ago.
You tested, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So even the jump from Formula 2 to Formula 1, in terms of just pure engineering, aerodynamics, drivability, is the biggest step.
Huge.
Huge.
So that's the biggest jump.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
those cars are so nice to drive and so fast, there's so much downforce. Then when you go back to a Formula 2 car, it just doesn't feel the same. But I guess nowadays, if people are good, you put them in any car, from a Formula 4 car to a Formula 1 car, I think they can be fast within half a day of testing.
Just instinct.
Yeah.
And how much of that instinct do you think you're either born with or you have to train?
So I think you are born with some kind of talent.
Put a percentage on it if you can.
So I would say in racing, I don't know about other sports. You can make it a long way on pure talent.
You think so?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, not gonna say any names or anything, but I know guys who can just sit at home all day, get to the track and win races. They don't have to do anything.
They just have that in them.
They just have that in them. But you can have a person who's doing 100 laps, 200 laps, and they just won't beat them because those guys are just too talented.
You know, it reminds me of that movie. I don't know, forget what it's called. I think Rush. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
With Nicky Lauda and
James Hunt.
James Hunt.
Yeah.
So James Hunt was at least depicted as, you know, the talented guy.
Yeah.
And Nicky was depicted as, you know, like the hard work. But there are people right now that you've raced against, just pure talent.
Yeah, I guess if you see even like guys like Antonelli now, who's going to be in Mercedes
How
next
old is he?
year.
16, 17?
He's 18 now.
What the hell, dude?
2 years ago, he was in karting. And
Yeah.
to think that he's driving for Mercedes,
Yeah.
it just shows. I mean, that type of people are just generational talents. They don't come along
Right.
that often. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he gets on next year.
And so he's taking, obviously, Lewis's spot. Lewis goes to Ferrari, takes Sainz. Sainz goes to Williams. What happens to the Williams driver? Is it Albon? No.
No, it was Sargent, now it's Colapinto.
So what happens then?
There's only one seat left in Sauber, so someone has to take it. I think there's going to be quite some battles for that seat.
Right.
A lot of good talents coming along the way, even in Formula 3, Formula 2. The last year's Formula 3 winner, Bortoleto, is the current championship leader in Formula 2 in his first year. So
he's killing it.
He's killing it. He's also looking for a seat. Colapinto is proving that he deserves a seat. So there are many people, out there. The teams have the decision to make. Hulkenberg's already signed there, and now they have to choose their next driver. So.
And what were your thoughts on Hamilton deciding to leave Mercedes? Do you think it makes sense? Do you think it's a fair move by him?
I think it makes sense for him. He's already a 7-time world champion. He's won 100 plus races. I mean, as Vettel said, everyone's lying if they're not a Ferrari fan at some point.
Right.
So,
it's the most iconic team. I mean, we all know that.
Yeah. It's kind of going to be the icing on the cake for Hamilton's career, whether he wins or not in a Ferrari, just to be at Ferrari and finish.
Ferrari.
I'm gonna guess he's gonna finish off his career in Ferrari because
It would make sense. How old is he? 34, 35? He's old.
He's almost 40, I think. He's
Oh,
40.
Okay. Well, then he's really old.
Yeah. So
Couple more,
yeah,
seasons. You think?
I think he'll do 2-3 more seasons and then.
Yeah. Well, there were some people who know more about racing than I do. They think of it as purely like he's not going there to win a championship. He's going there to top off his career with that feather in his cap. Do you think Well, am I correct in thinking that 2026 is when they switch the FI is going to switch the rules?
Yeah.
So, that'll obviously change things up. Right now, McLaren doing really well with
Yeah.
Lando, who you've raced against. Do you think that in terms of racing, that was a good move, or is it purely for, like
So for me,
the fanfare?
For me, there's no way someone like Hamilton would be in Formula One if he didn't believe he could still win a world championship. I think Hamilton knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Have you met him ever?
Yeah, I met him. So when he moved to Mercedes in 2013 from McLaren, Mercedes were nowhere, but he had a few meetings with Niki Lauda, and they convinced him with the plan. He went to Mercedes and he won 6 world championships after that. So I'm sure Hamilton has a plan in mind. It is never going to be easy with a teammate like Leclerc, but the best guys in the world are not scared to take anyone on, or even guys like Max, Leclerc, Lando. They really don't care who's their teammate. They genuinely believe that whoever's in the car near them, they could beat them.
That was my big. It's not an issue, but with Daniel Ricciardo, he left Red Bull just when Max was trying to come up. What did you make of that?
I mean, at that point, Red Bull were good, but they were not a championship winning car. I guess Daniel went to Renault because again they had this project in mind. They had these goals that they wanted to achieve together. And I mean, it obviously didn't work out for him. I guess they have not been a championship winning team for many years now. So yeah, that's why then he moved to McLaren. His time wasn't great then. He went back to the Red Bull family. So I guess in hindsight he might regret his decision, but yeah, that's really up to him.
That's for him to
decide.
know. Yeah. Okay, you spoke about teammates. You've got a unique perspective on it. You're an actual racer, you're a professional racer. Like, what's the teammate dynamic like? In any given team.
So teammate and also just your colleagues and competitors. You're really close to a few of them. I mean, your teammate, especially in Formula 2, is very different to Formula 1. Over there, they fly in on their own, they go track walk on their own, they eat dinner on their own. While in Formula 2, we go to the simulator together, we eat meals together, we do the track walk together. So it's nice to have a good relationship with your teammate off the track. But yeah, when you're on the track, he's the most important person that you have to beat. It's pretty simple. You don't beat your teammate, your career is going to be over.
Because they're always judging you from, how your teammate's doing.
Exactly. So he's your number one rival on the track. So also in Formula 2, like in the end, everyone's racing for a seat in Formula 1. So there's never, like if someone asks me to let my teammate go, I'd never do it in a Formula 2 race. In Formula E, it's different. In Formula 1, it's different because you're driving for a manufacturer, you're driving for a brand, they're paying you money. So you...
Like the way Checo does sometimes for Max.
I mean, that's just part of your job. It's kind of in most people's contracts that they have to listen to the team. While in Formula 2, that's not the case at all. You're driving for a team, but you're driving for your own career.
You're driving to advance yourself into the next.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll talk about Formula 2 since we're on there. Very different setup than Formula 1.
Yeah.
I find it very interesting that Formula 2, and I learned this recently, and like I said, this is why I like to do this, is you learn a thing or two in prepping and in talking to people like you. But Formula 2, if I'm not mistaken, all cars are the same. Like same manufacturer, same engine. So I guess they level the playing field in that sense. Well, if all the cars are even, right, and I guess circumstances are even, then what's the point in having that sprint versus feature race?
Firstly, the chassis is the same, the engine is the same, but the cars are all not the same.
Okay,
Each team
explain that.
has completely different philosophies, setups, ways to go about setting up the car. I've driven for 3 teams, and when you jump from one team to another, you don't even feel you're in the same car.
Like a different type of vehicle
Yeah,
altogether.
it's just completely different.
Comes under race philosophy.
Race philosophy, how they set up the car, how they believe that the car is going to be. You can do various things to change. There are some tracks where some teams are always better than other teams because they know the correct setup. So even in Formula 2, there are definitely 3 or 4 teams who are better than the rest.
Give me some examples of teams and the setups that they use.
I mean, as the driver, we don't go right into detail of what setups they use, but let's just say for the past 4 or 5 years, Prema, Carlin, MP, all these kind of teams have been top teams consistently for the last 4 or 5
Teams
years.
that you've raced for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not a coincidence that they are good. It's because they also have a good car. And when the margins are so tight and it's a spec series, if the setup is a little bit better than the others, that small difference makes a huge difference. So,
but as a driver, you're not as involved in the setup of the actual car. Your job is to just go out and race. Or how much of a say do you have?
So you don't really have much say on the setup before the race weekend of what they decide with the ride heights, the springs, the downforce and all of that stuff. But as the weekend goes on, the practice sessions go on, the drivers giving a lot of feedback to the engineers to see what they can change or what they should change. Because we in the end are the ones driving, so we need to be comfortable with what we have. So it's kind of a mutual agreement that I would say that is the most important relationship for any racing driver, between him and his race engineer.
His engineer.
Yeah. So we always kind of decide what's the best. It's rarely a time where you argue because even the engineer wants the driver to be comfortable. So yeah, that's how it kind of goes.
Okay, and talk about the sprint versus feature racing aspect of F2.
Yeah, so in the end, F2 is obviously what they call a feeder series. So in order to make you learn and to mix it up a bit, they swap the top 10 positions for the sprint race. They also reduce the points by a lot. So it just makes it a bit more interesting. You could say fair or unfair, but I think it's a good format. You learn a lot this way. You learn to follow cars in dirty air. It gives you an extra opportunity. Formula 1 guys, they only have one race in the weekend. At least we get 2. So I think the format is interesting. Even for a viewer, when the guy starting 10th is probably the fastest guy, then yeah, you're like, okay, I'll watch him and see what he can do.
So my understanding of it then is it's for teams in Formula 1 to see, okay, this guy has the ability to race the fastest lap, but does he also have the ability to overtake? I'm assuming that's what it is.
That's how it works, yeah.
Okay. Now, while you were in Formula 2, you were with the Red Bull Racing Academy. What was that like?
Yeah, honestly, it was really, really cool. So at the end of 2019, I finished third in Formula 3. I not signed my deal, but we kind of agreed with Helmut Marko that I would be a Red Bull junior. Just 1 month after that, I damaged my knee, ACL, MCL, meniscus.
Training.
Yeah, everything together.
Yeah.
And I was kind of a bit scared. Like, we just agreed to sign for Red Bull and I've just done this.
That's a big deal.
Yeah. I was like, oh crap, what have I done? But yeah, as usual, my parents were fully supporting me. My dad called Helmut Marko. He said, don't worry about it. The season is a few months away. It's all going to be fine. Honestly, I was driving a car before I could even walk properly because I needed to get ready for my Formula 2 season. So yeah, with all these injuries, I guess in a month and a half, I was in a Formula 2 car, driving around Bahrain with a knee brace in the car because it was too painful without it. And then, actually, my first season with Red Bull was during COVID. What happened for me was because of COVID, I had 3-4 months extra to recover with my knee. And yeah, the journey was honestly very, very good. What I liked about it was they are very straightforward. Uh, Dr. Helmut Marko was in charge of the junior team. He just says it how it is, and it's nice. I'm that type of a person. I like someone saying you're not doing a good job on my face rather than say it behind my back. So, yeah, uh, it's a difficult environment. It's kind of sink or swim, and that's how they've been for the last few years.
But that produces the best racers, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there's a lot of talent that's gone through. Who were the notable guys from the Red Bull Academy that have made it to Formula One in your time, at least?
Obviously, Sebastian Vettel,
Right.
Verstappen, Tsunoda, and
And
maybe Lawson.
Yuki was your teammate.
Yuki was my teammate, yeah.
Wow.
Ricardo also made it through Red Bull. Sainz made it through Red Bull as well.
So they're just like talent harvesting.
Yeah, I mean they have like 4 or 5 drivers in when I was in Formula 2 they had 5 drivers, which is 25% of the grid.
Yeah.
So
okay, so Yuki was your teammate. He's obviously in F1. What was he like as a teammate, as a person? Do you get to know him well, or was it a little bit distant?
No, actually when we were teammates we had a good relationship.
He seems like a sweet guy, but
Yeah.
maybe that's just for the cameras, I don't know.
No, he's actually, I guess, so he came from Japan directly to Europe in 2019, did Formula 3 1 year, and then in not a great team, and then he jumped into Formula 2 with me. No one really knew how good he was, honestly. He didn't speak great English when he came. It was a bit of a language barrier for him in the beginning. But you could see how good he was, honestly, straight away. He deserves his place in Formula 1. Coming from Japan, it wasn't easy for him to adapt, but I would say he's also naturally very, very talented. So,
he has that vibe about him, a little bit of a space cadet, but
he has a good vibe. He has a lot of self-confidence, self-belief. He really doesn't care what other people tell him. That's just how he is.
What about you as a teammate? You seeing him make the jump that you hadn't made yet. How was that for you?
I mean, I was not too worried. Yuki being Japanese as well, with Red Bull being Honda, they were pushing for a Japanese driver to go to Formula 1. So I kind of knew that halfway through the year that he's anyways going to be going. I had many issues with my car that year as well. So
there was an issue with your chassis that they found out way later, right?
No, it was my engine was not really good at that time in the season. We changed the engine towards the end of the year, and I had got a lot better results. And then so that's why Red Bull they kept me for the year after as well.
Right, but it didn't sting at all. How can it not?
No, I mean it does not. I wouldn't say there's any really like jealousy as such.
What about fuel for motivation? It must be, because you're a competitor, you're a competitive guy.
I mean, what was good that I knew that if I could win Formula 2 the year after, there's a space in Formula 1. So that was enough adrenaline. I don't really care who was in Formula 1 at that time. I was in Formula 2. It made no difference to me and not if Yuki was in Formula 1. What was driving me was if I had a good season in F2, there was a possibility that I could go to Formula 1 the year after as well.
In terms of F2, I mean, you've done well in F2. Yeah. Like you said, you got a bit unlucky with disqualifications. You've still won in Monza. 18 podiums, I think you told me 17 or 18. So you've had a successful career. Do you think that in hindsight, considering, that chapter of your life is now behind you, you think it could have been better, or are you satisfied with how it played out?
Honestly, I don't really look back at things and regret them at all. I know that I put in all my effort. I mean, obviously, if you ask any driver, they would want to win the championships in their first year, so it's easier to go to Formula 1. But yeah, it's just life. I feel like I anyways live my dream.
So you're lucky regardless. I get that.
I'm lucky regardless. I mean, what I've done and what I've achieved, I can look back and still be pretty happy.
I agree, man. It's like we spoke about before the camera started rolling. Life's too, fucking short to regret things. Yeah. So fair enough. I get that. Anyway, so F2, good career. Not the greatest, but like something to be happy about. How did it unfold with Formula 3?
Yeah, so Formula E or Formula 3?
Sorry, Formula E. My bad.
So in my last year Formula 2, I was not with Red Bull. I think there's a time where you have to be realistic. So when I was there, I kind of knew that even if I win Formula 2 before the season, that I wasn't going to Formula 1. I kind of,
Because of timing?
yeah, I'd spent too many years already in F2 and
Mm.
I just got dropped from Red Bull.
Mm.
So I was looking for a seat already in Formula E in 2023. I was looking for a seat in IndyCar, but nothing really came about. So it was either sit on the side and do nothing or drive in Formula 2 again. So we took a decision to drive in Formula 2 and knowing that even if I win, I'm 99% not going to go to F1. So really early on in the season, with my managers and my dad, we were really pushing towards signing in Formula E
FE, okay.
and trying to get a deal through. The thing is, most of the time, people are waiting to see how the F2 season is going to do well or to wait to see if they're going to go to Formula 1 and then another opportunity goes away. So yeah, we were pretty clear that we wanted to be in Formula E. I was a Mahindra reserve in 2023 and then I shifted to Maserati for this year's season.
Now, before we get into FE, I want to talk to you a little bit about your racing. In terms of well, there's really three things the way I see it. It's obviously the mental aspect of it, the physical, and like the lifestyle that surrounds it. We'll start with the mental. You said that you've worked with coaches before.
Yeah.
So what is the mental prep like for a race car driver?
So I guess there were a bit of phases for me. At one point, or initially, I was just seeing a mind coach because, like, I was kind of forced to. Let's say.
You didn't think you needed one?
I didn't think I needed one. Then I kind of didn't have one for a few years. Let's say things were not going as well as I wanted to. So then
At what point is this?
This was probably between basically my first year of F2.
Okay.
First 2 years of F2, 1.5 years. And then, so my personal trainer is the same as Lando's, so we know each other quite well. And so he suggested this mind coach, my personal trainer that Lando had also had worked with. She's very good. And, I was like, okay, I'm part of Red Bull. I'm training as hard as I can. I'm putting my best effort. I don't want to look back in 4 years' time thinking I didn't do everything.
You want to leave no stone unturned.
No stone
Fair
unturned.
enough.
So I was like, okay, I'm going to go see this lady and just give my full effort. And things did start to turn around.
You think it helped, the coaching?
I think it's helpful. I mean, as people know me, I don't really speak too much or say a lot, so it was difficult to her also for her to understand what I'm trying to say. But we kept it very professional about my racing, what I think I needed to improve, what my thoughts are before I get into the car, how to control your emotions if things are not going well, all that kind of stuff.
What are your thoughts before you get into a car?
So I mean, what changed was I was the type of guy who could. I mean, honestly, weirdly I don't really get much nerves. I don't get nervous at all. I didn't really have a set routine. That was before I used to get into the car, I could be,
You're doing whatever you don't.
Yeah, I would just be chatting to my whatever, whoever was there. It didn't bother me. Even 2 months before the race, I would be talking to someone about some random stuff and then just get into the car. As soon as I put my helmet on, that's when I started.
That's when you lock in.
Yeah, when I locked in and became serious. But I kind of just changed that over some time. I was giving myself like 15-20 minutes to visualize before qualifying or race, hearing some music. Not a huge fan of music, but just putting on anything because there's so much outside noise with a lot of people there, another category racing. So you're always just, there's still too much happening. So just having a bit of time to myself was kind of helping me a bit before getting into the car.
And working with a mind coach helped you with all of that?
Yeah. And she kind of knew what I wanted. I was like, all the stuff that's which wouldn't work for me, I would not do. And if she asked me to do something, if I wouldn't do it, I'd tell her honestly, like, okay, this is a waste of time. I'm not going to do it. So she always was very helpful in understanding who I was and helping me get the best out of myself.
Okay, you said once you put your helmet on, you lock in. You're in the car, you're sitting in the grid waiting for the lights to go off. How does that, what is that feeling like? What goes on through your head at that time? Or does nothing go on through your head?
So sometimes it's nothing. For me, whether I'm starting first, 10, 20, I feel exactly the same. I don't have any more nerves. What's weird is when the 5 lights are coming on, that's when I'm super calm. I think my heart rate must be even less than 100, even at that time. Through the race, it gets high just purely because of the physicality.
It's the physical aspect of the race. People don't realize, dude, it's hard.
No, it's hard. In Formula 2, it's really hard because there's no power steering either. So
you're doing it all,
In like Saudi Arabia, 2 years ago, I couldn't even lift my check-in luggage after the race.
Oh, really? Was that
My
bad?
shoulders were completely finished. The winner had his GPS, heart rate GPS. He had an average heart rate of 185 for 1 hour.
Dude, that's like for people that don't, that's a hard sprint, basically, for an hour.
1 hour average.
Yeah.
So I also had put some heart rate monitors on when I was testing in F2 and stuff. And on a qualifying lap, you can almost reach 195, 200. So
again, that's a hard, I don't think people realize, dude. That's like you're at the max.
And what's actually was interesting is when you have a sequence of high-speed corners, we with our analysts and data, actually we forget to breathe sometimes because we are so focused on thinking about the corner that you're forgetting to actually breathe. So then you come out like
you're just
like
sucking wind at the end of it. Yeah. Okay. So obviously physically, we know this. It's as hard as it can get. 190 for an hour is pretty unreal. Yeah. Also in terms of the head, your helmet plus your head, I think the whole thing weighs, if I'm not mistaken, between 3 and 5 kgs, right? Your head weighs 2-3 kgs.
Yeah, the helmet and hands device together is around 3.5 kgs.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Plus you're getting what, is it 5 Gs of force when you turn really, really hard? So if you do
in Formula 1, it's even more.
Right. Yeah. So it's 20 kgs basically of weight, here
it's
and there.
Way more than 20 kgs. It's
how much is it? Do you know?
Yeah. So when I do my neck testing, I do 55 kgs of pulling.
Dude, and you've got a fat neck, dude.
Now it's less. I mean, I've not been training my neck a lot, but at one point it's
it was
yeah.
The traps.
It's wider than my chin.
Yeah. But that's part of it. What's that training like?
So before I did my Formula 1 test, basically 6 weeks before that, I was flat out. I was training my neck 3 times a week because I can't do more. Once you train your neck, the next day, you can't even lift your head off the pillow because it's that sore.
What is neck train? Is it that thing that they put with the cable machine and you're pulling
Yeah, so that harness is actually made by my personal trainer. He invented
the harness.
So
it's impressive, man.
Yeah, we have all the tools that you want to use. So within a 6-week period, I went from being able to hold. Normally to do endurance, you do half your maximum for as long as you can. So from being able to hold 20 odd kilos for 1 minute, then I was doing over 2 minutes. So and then that's what helped me when I got into my Formula 1 car. People call it pussy pads to put on the side to rest your neck. So my trainer said you shouldn't use them. So I said, okay, I won't use them. For the first 1.5 days at Silverstone, I managed to hold my head up.
Yeah.
But then when my neck started to go, it's impossible. So
you needed those pads.
You turn and it just goes. I mean, I didn't put the pads in, but I was just resting my head.
Your head's just flying, dude, from one place to another. But what you have to, so you train for 3 times a week, basically, your neck.
Yeah.
What about shoulders, this, that? How is that? What's the workout routine like?
I mean, so my trainer was coming at 10, 11 sometimes in the morning. So not early.
That's the afternoon, dude.
Yeah. So I'm not a morning guy, so...
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
And we would basically spend the morning doing either neck or upper body, lower body, kind of take a break, go eat lunch together or this and then go for a run kind of in the afternoon post
Mhm.
that. The problem is when the schedule is really, really busy, kind of want to do nothing. Like even if I
You
have
just need to
to,
recover.
yeah, for
Right.
2 days, I'm just like, I don't want to do
After the
anything.
race.
Yeah.
Right.
And then you're kind of flying out to the next race. So you come back on a Monday, and if you have back-to-back weekends on the Wednesday you're off.
So by the time you recover, you're already in the car again.
Yeah.
Basically.
So typically on Monday you do nothing. On Tuesday you do something like really light, like
Light work.
a really light jog, which is really like half an hour just at your own pace. And then Wednesday you're already flying and back at the track, so there's no real time. In like in 8 weeks, sometimes you have 6 races, so it's just flat out during the summer.
You just go, okay. But okay, that's in season. So
Yeah.
most of it, it's kind of like football in that way. In season, a lot of your focus is recovery.
Yeah.
To just be able to perform the next
Yeah.
weekend, Off season, I'm assuming right before the season, like 1-2 months in, like where you are now, if you were to sign again in October, you said it
Yeah.
starts. Like you must be going all out now with your training. What is the off season training like?
I mean, especially Formula 1, Formula 2, it's weird. Like how much ever you train from November to January or February, it's where you train more in those 3 months than you would in the entire season put together by 5 times, because you don't have time in the season. But when you come to the first day of testing, you're done. Like your neck cannot be up, your body cannot handle it, you're so sore. Nothing can replicate
Race fitness.
race fitness. In a Formula 1 car is just, and Formula 2 is just too different to any kind of training. If the best thing to do is actually drive go-karts, so try to drive a Formula 4 car or something. Those can try to replicate it as much as possible. So Formula 1 drivers, just by driving, they're training their necks.
Right.
Like it's way better than doing 10 workouts, just one race in a Formula 1 car. So
Because it's race fitness.
It's
It's
race
different
fitness.
than like fitness, So you can't really basically.
I mean, beyond a point, I mean, you need to be very fit in specific areas. Like your neck needs to be very
Shoulders, I'm
strong. Your
assuming.
shoulders need to be strong.
like traps and upper body, right? Mostly.
Yeah, but I also have friends who are like super good at cycling, even way better than me. They can lift weights, but when they get into the car, my heart rate is like 20 beats lower than this. It's because I'm just maybe a bit calmer.
Also, your VO2 max level is probably, better than theirs because you're used to it.
I mean, when I'm driving, I'm basically way less getting tired than the other guys. But even they could be fitter than me in.
Because you have
It's
that
something else,
conditioning that's race specific.
Yeah.
Dude,
I
you're
need-
sleeping a lot.
I need 8-10 hours minimum.
Dude, that's a
Yeah,
lot of sleep,
yeah.
dude. 11 to 9.
Like on a race weekend, I need at least 8 hours. If I'm waking
Yeah,
up
of
at
course.
7 in the morning, I'll make sure I'm asleep well in advance.
Dude, but 11 to 9 is a lot of sleep, man. I guess you need to recover from, like just being
Once I've slept 40 hours out of 48 also.
really just so tired.
Just, nothing to do, so I just sleep. Like on flights and all, I just sleep. My trainer, when we go like for these long event races, he always tells me if you sleep, he sends me this jet lag plan and stuff, so that when we get there, I've basically slept like a 10-12 hour flight, landed at night
Like runway to runway.
at 10 p.m., got to the hotel at 11 and slept again till the morning.
Oh, that's lovely,
Yeah.
dude.
So I don't struggle with while traveling and sleeping.
You don't take melatonin or anything like that?
No. I mean, sometimes I've taken it once or twice, but I don't take it. Like my dad used to say that he used to play state level badminton and get nervous and not be able to sleep. But for me, sleeping has never been a problem.
Yeah, same. It's a lot. Not a lot of people can.
Yeah, a lot of people struggle to sleep.
What about naps? You take naps?
Oh, sometimes in the day I was taking naps because in Formula 2, our practice is like at 9 a.m. and then qualifying at 6 in the evening.
So you
So you have the whole day to do.
Mm-hmm.
And how much of data can you look and how much? So then you just take a
Your
nap.
brain needs to relax and all of that. But when
90
you're
minutes, I take a nap.
you need to.
Yeah.
Even like I think a lot of like the top athletes, they do it because, it helps. Like it's been proven that it helps.
And then I take like these caffeine tablets, 30-40 minutes. Yeah. And I don't like coffee that much.
You're not a coffee drinker?
No. But these tablets really help me like focus extra.
What are these tablets, dude? I'll check it out.
It's
not pre-workout. It's just caffeine tablets.
It's caffeine. You guys put like a medicine and you swallow them.
Like how many milligrams of caffeine is it? Like 100, 200,
How much is one coffee?
60,
Yeah, so it's around 2,
2, so 120 roughly.
Yeah, you can get 2.5 also, but 2 is good.
Okay.
Or you even can do it in chewing gum. So I started doing that. I like that also.
The gum, I've heard of the
Yeah, the chewing
caffeine
gum is very
gums.
nice.
Actually, I have a friend that's working on something like that in India. I
Okay.
can't really talk about it too much.
Yeah.
Caffeine tablets. What about else? Like race day or like pre-race? You have any like meals or something that you like? Like you have to carb load, I'm sure.
Yeah, so I guess like many other sports, I guess people's perception of what racing drivers eat is like, we don't eat salads and stuff during race weekends. It's just
No, you need to eat.
purely pasta,
You need to eat
pizza,
pasta, yeah,
rice,
pasta, rice.
chicken.
Yeah.
That's like there's not much greens going in my plate on a race weekend.
Yeah,
and they
but-
encourage you to eat as much as you want and drink as much as you
Because you're
need.
gonna burn it off anyway.
Yeah,
Man. Yeah,
sure.
eat, drink. You gotta hydrate. You gotta get those I'm
Yeah.
sure that's basics for
Yeah.
any sport.
Yeah.
What about those carb like packets? You know what I'm talking about? That
Yeah.
you can suck on.
So I don't have that. What generally happens to me on a race weekend? So normally I'm a big foodie. I love eating food. On a race weekend, you don't really get too much time. So my trainer kind of gets my plate, or it's a kind of a rush to eat. So in my drink, we have this carbohydrate powder that we put. So I'm while drinking only it's a very nice berry flavored drink. So I'm having it and the carbohydrates are going
just
into
going
my
in.
body. Yeah.
And
And he's judging how much I need and
They
stuff. So
know.
that I'm not even thinking about it.
What about something like how do they track all your vitals? Like, is there like a Whoop band, or I mean, not that exactly, but how are they tracking all of your things?
Not really. Only when training, like
Mhm.
heart rate monitor,
Yeah.
Polar app, all that kind of stuff. But on race weekends, not.
No, like not like while you're racing, they don't have anything.
It's not actually allowed to wear it because it's not fireproof, those straps.
Okay,
So only while testing and stuff we wear them, but in race weekends they
And
don't.
then you can make predictions based on how
The
it
FIA
is.
have some in the gloves and all now they have heart rate monitors
Right.
in F1.
For like racers just to see where they are and
Yeah.
so that teams can track.
More for the medical people in case they have a big crash, they can check their vitals and all of that stuff.
And all of these supplements and all of that, when you're racing, do you as a driver have your own sponsorships that you can bring on, or is it just the team providing you
No, you can. With supplements, we have to be very careful because we are on the World Anti-Doping list. So I just got off mine maybe 2 months ago, but otherwise I was one of they pick like 2 or 3 athletes in every sport that have to send their daily location, daily plan, everything. So
really?
So yeah, I was on it for 4 years. So it was like,
what do you mean? So they just know everything you're doing at all times?
Everything all times. If I'm going to a club, or if I'm going to a bar, or if I'm going to dinner, they know everything. If I don't reply or if I don't come and meet them at that location within 1 hour of them being there, it's considered a failed test. You fail 2 tests, you get banned for 6 months.
That's mad.
So it was a headache.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. It's like, how do you live your life then?
You have to just fill it.
You have to fill it.
If you change your plan, you have to fill it and
You're basically always filling it.
Yeah.
Every like 2 hours or whatever it may be, every time you change location.
No, I just fill it in advance. Like if I'm in Bombay, I know that I just write Bombay. Like 99% of the time, if I need to, someone calls me, I can reach within an hour.
Yeah.
The person. So once at 6 a.m. at home, like one of my staff was calling me in my room saying, like she thought it was my friend. So I was saying, tell him to go away. It's 6 in the morning. What's he doing here? So I've gone up in my night suit and it's the person saying, I've come to take your doping test.
Yeah.
And I was like, fine. So even here, I have to be very careful.
Mad, dude. It's 6 in the morning.
Yeah. They can come anytime.
What sort of supplements are you on as a racer? What kind of stuff do you have to take? Like, are you taking like
all multivitamins?
Whey protein? Are you
No. Just vitamins. Like I was taking like, right now I've not been taking because they're all fine, but I was taking like 7 vitamins every morning.
What about creatine?
No.
None of that.
Don't need any extra strength or anything.
That's interesting.
And I eat a lot of protein without needing like protein.
Like you don't need to supplement your protein intake.
No. I'm eating like pure chicken and enough of it.
Do you track how much you consume?
No, I'm tracking my weight 3 times a day.
Okay.
So like I make sure that I need to be below like right now I'm 75, which is too much. If I'm racing in December, I'll be 70, 71.
70?
Yeah.
How tall are you? Like 5'11"?
Oh, yeah, 5'10" something.
Yeah, I guess 70 makes, yeah, fair enough. Like I'm 5'9"
Oh,
and I'm 70 right now.
yeah. So I mean, I can get down easily.
Mhm.
But when I'm here, I just love my Parsi food at home and
Course, dude.
just constantly eating.
So you're a home food guy,
Yeah.
not outside.
Oh, I'm mixed actually. Even in Bombay, I barely eat dinner at home. I eat lunch almost at home all the time. But some way or the other, we go out to eat dinner or go for movies and all that, and I end up eating there.
What about when you're in Formula, like say last year, Formula E,
Yeah.
when you're eating, like when you're with the team, is the team just giving you your set meals or how does that work?
Oh no, so they have like a catering at the track
Mhm.
where you can choose. There's many variety of food trucks, what they call. You can choose anywhere you want to eat. Well, if I'm in Monaco at the team's like factory, I basically go to one restaurant and eat one pasta for
Mm.
lunch and dinner every day.
You know what you like
Yeah.
and you're eating the same thing.
I'm a kind of guy where if I like something, I don't try anything else.
Yeah.
The same
Same,
restaurant, I'll eat the same meal for even 1 year or 2 years.
I'm like that also. I like to, you know,
I don't like to
I stick
experiment
to what
with
I
my
know.
food. Yeah.
I don't want to experiment because you get one meal, man. You want to enjoy
Yeah.
it. Interesting, dude. And so Formula E, you said like it lot shorter races.
Yeah. Mainly
How-
the batteries cannot
Right.
go for an hour.
But even with Formula One, like there is energy, well, fuel management.
Yeah.
Formula E is obviously energy management. What is the difference between the two? Or even Formula 2 for that matter?
So Formula 2, there's a lot of tire management. Formula 1 also has some tire management, some fuel management. And Formula E has energy management. In the way, we have to do the exact same thing as they do in Formula 1 by lifting and coasting, but it's just the duration is longer. So if we lift for like 100 meters, they would lift for 15 meters. So that's about it. That's the only way you can save energy is lifting early, so you're not deploying energy.
Right.
And then you charge by braking. So that's the only way you can. If the race is 35 laps and you did nothing and you just drove flat out from start to finish, you would stop like 10 or 12 laps before the end.
Oh, really?
So that's how
you
efficient
have to manage.
you have to manage. That's how efficient the cars are.
That comes under racecraft.
Yeah, that's why Formula E is very difficult. When you're in your first year, all these guys, like as a driver, when someone is behind you and you know you have to lift here, but you're so tempted to not lift.
Because you
but
know
then,
he's going to take you, but
but any energy you spend, you never get back.
Mm.
It's as simple as it's just pure math.
Mhm.
You cannot change it. Anytime you go on throttle, you're using energy, and anytime you use more energy than you need, it's never going to come back to you. So
right. So you have to be very careful.
you have to be very careful.
It takes
very
a lot of
smart.
maturity, I'm sure,
Yeah.
to, balance that.
A lot of thinking. Yeah.
Race management, right?
Yeah. It's the first time in my career was after the first round in Formula E where I actually had a headache after the race.
Really?
It was too much information to process. I was just had to think and drive rather than like now by the end of the year it just comes naturally to me.
Mhm.
Otherwise I was just thinking about there's 100 switches that you can change stuff and do, so it's just really complicated.
But it's a massive difference, yeah. It's, like completely different powertrains.
Yeah. And the testing was very limited. So I did 3 days of testing before I did my first race.
Really?
Yeah. So you have no time to really learn and adapt before you get into the car.
How does that even work? Do you only get into the car, so few times
I mean,
before your
they do
racing?
it from Formula 3 onwards. So you're only allowed 5 or 6 days of testing per year.
Mhm.
Apart from that, you cannot drive. Only on race weekends.
Okay.
They do that to control costs, control budgets.
Otherwise, the bigger teams will just test
the
all
bigger
year
manufacturers
round.
will just test 100, 200.
Because it's expensive to get a car on the track.
Yeah, it costs a lot. So I think it's a good balance that they found. Some manufacturers, they like have 6-7 extra days that's shared between the teams, So if Porsche have 3 teams in Formula E, for example, and they have 9 days of testing, they'll split it between the 3 teams and give 3 days to each team.
And Formula E, a lot of street tracks.
Yeah.
Formula 1, Formula 2 race tracks, obviously.
Yeah.
How does that change your driving style and, what is that like?
Typically, street tracks in the beginning are super dirty, especially when you go for the first practice session. But there's a lot of risk. You make one mistake, you're in the wall. So that's the hardest thing about these tracks. You're driving so close to the wall the entire race that it's easy to make a mistake, but I think 95% of racing drivers, they would say they prefer street tracks because the thrill and the
It's more
adrenaline is
fun.
something else only. Yeah. If you make a mistake and you're going to go into the wall, then that's fun.
Speaking of the thrill, dude, like you said, like your amygdala just isn't as activated, so you don't feel that fear. So you're chasing the, the
Yeah, the next
adrenaline,
big rush.
the
Yeah.
next big
Yeah.
rush. Fucking junkies, all
Yeah.
of you.
Yeah, I
Nice,
think
man.
everyone said that at one point you have to be a little bit crazy to be a racing driver. And
Would you say you're a little bit crazy?
oh, I guess in my own way, yeah.
Yeah. Would the people that know you best say that as well?
I think so.
Probably. Interesting, man. Interesting. Okay. Couple more questions about Formula E before we go. Okay, let's do this. See, you've done combustion engine, you've done electric.
Yeah.
Could you break it down in 3 points, the difference, Formula E versus Formula One?
So, in pretty simple terms, a Formula One car, firstly, their budgets are way more than Formula E. Formula E, all cars are spec. They're the same cars for all teams, only engines are different. Formula One cars have way more downforce than a Formula E car. So in Formula E, you can follow each other like literally bumper to bumper. You're fighting each other in corners all the time. Next year, Formula E cars are going to have four-wheel drive, and they're going to be the fastest cars ever from 0 to 100. They're going to go 1.8 seconds.
That's rapid.
Yeah,
That's rapid.
yeah, it's mind-boggling. So when I tested them last year with the four-wheel drive and doing the practice starts, it's impressive. Like,
Yeah.
you just
get sucked into the seat,
yeah,
right?
you reach like 200 kilometers in no time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, like you had mentioned earlier, Formula E is more about managing the energy, managing a lot of systems and tools, while Formula One is a bit more like driving more flat out the whole race, pushing more. So yeah, those are the key differences.
Yeah. In terms of we spoke about how, Formula E is growing,
Yeah.
but it's only been 10 years, or I think 11 years since
Yeah.
it started.
10 years. Yeah.
So, do you think it'll ever? I think we both agree it's never going to be as big as Formula One. At least I don't see it becoming as big. But do you think it'll be in the same sort of discussion or no?
I do believe so. I think obviously Formula One is as big as it's ever been.
It's huge
right now.
And Drive to Survive just helped it so much.
I mean, it's huge. Formula One is probably one of the biggest sports in the world right now, I
Agreed.
would say. I do think Formula E has a lot of potential to get there. I think what people don't probably understand is Formula E drivers are probably as good as Formula One drivers. So it's just perception that they are not in Formula One, so they are not as good. And also, there's a lot of manufacturers in Formula E. You have McLaren, Nissan, Porsche, Maserati. All these teams are there in Formula E. So I think it's more about time that it grows. But I don't believe in the near future it's going to be close to Formula One.
Okay, now you've done again, such a varied career, all sorts of different levels. Do you have a favorite? This is actually a question that one of the guys replied to the story. One of the listeners. Is there a favorite season that you've had in your racing career?
I think when I won the British Championship in go-karting.
Yeah.
I would say the most fun I've had in my career is in go-karting, because those days were just different. Less serious. I mean, less at stake. You're kind of just enjoying with a bunch of friends that you have in karting. Yes, it's serious on the track, but you're eating French fries together. I mean, it wasn't like I didn't even know training or anything
It's
when I was
still
10 or
pure.
11. Yeah, it's just like a bunch of guys enjoying. We're literally like eating a bowl of fries at 1 o'clock and having a race at 1:30.
And just ripping it on the track.
Just going out there, ripping it, then going into someone's motorhome, playing the PlayStation and FIFA.
Yeah.
So those don't happen anymore. It's way too serious nowadays. And that year I had won the British Championship in a very intense season. So it's probably one of my biggest achievements.
That stays with you.
Yeah.
And what about races, won a few, more than a few. Any victories that really, you know?
So I think my first win in Formula 2 in Bahrain in 2020, that would be one of my most memorable moments. Signing for Red Bull junior team. And then, yeah, I think winning, like I said, the British Championship and coming third in the World Karting Championship.
It's not easy to do, man.
No.
Yeah. And in Formula E, anything that stands by, or still, first season, so like you said, you were adjusting, and it's not easy to do.
Yeah, I
Completely
think
different.
I made it to the duels a couple of times. I had a top 5 start, had points in quite some races towards the end of the year. So, yeah, honestly speaking, it's not the season that I would have wanted. But I do believe as a rookie, it's really difficult in Formula E. So, if I'm on the grid next year, I do believe I can do really good things.
And your teammate this last year, Maximilian Gunter,
Yeah.
he's obviously like veteran Formula E driver. He's been there like 5 years, I think, if I'm not mistaken. He had a good season. Not his best, but
Yeah.
better than yours. What was the dynamic between you and him?
I mean, when you're in a professional environment like that, you do kind of get along in a way that you have to. You're driving for a team in the
Keep
end,
it cordial.
Yeah, you're driving for a team. There's no. Yes, racing drivers are selfish. A lot of us are all selfish. But at one point, we're employed by Maserati, so we have to make sure that we're doing everything to get good results for them. And in that way, we got along well. We were very professional with each other. There were no real incidents that took place that really affected our relationship.
Could you ever go to him for advice because he's been in it for so long, or not? Really? Is that not
No,
how
it's
it
not something
really
that you
works?
do.
Just kind of every man for himself. Fair enough. To that.
Yeah. I mean, you can see his data anyways. So
Fair enough. Makes sense. Teammates aren't your besties. Right now you're without a contract. Next year, worst case, you don't re-sign with Maserati. What's the future going to look like?
I honestly don't know. It's a question that many people have been asking me. I would like to be in Formula E next year. If not Formula E, I could explore the options in Le Mans or IndyCar. But I'm still hopeful that Formula E is possible to be on the grid next year. If not any sort of racing, I don't know. I don't really have too much of a backup plan. I would say I would probably go into business or something with my family, but it's not something that I'm really thinking about right now because I want to focus on my racing
One day at a
career.
time.
Yeah.
Right now, would it sting to not have the chance to race again?
Yeah, it would.
fair
I
enough.
definitely think I deserve another shot next year in Formula E. It would sting, but I'm honestly grateful for all the opportunities I've had. I'm grateful for the life, family, friends that I have. So
It's already a win.
yeah, it's a win. I mean, it would definitely hurt. So I'm not gonna lie, but life goes on. I would get over it pretty quickly. And
You seem like the type of guy. You
I would
don't
not
seem
let
like
it bother me.
the type of guy that gets hung up on stuff.
No,
I don't think you can have that constitution and be a good racer.
no,
Or, memory of a goldfish. Just
Yeah.
forget the losses and
exactly.
move on. All right. In terms of people racing right now, F1, FE, whatever, who would you say is the most talented racer
The most.
right now?
Yeah, I would say Max and probably Lando.
Lando. Do you think he has a chance of winning this year?
Yeah. Once he wins today, hopefully then.
Yeah. So Singapore, right?
Yeah.
Today. You're going to be watching?
Yeah.
Besides racing, do you watch any other sports properly?
Yeah, I'm a big cricket fan.
Oh, yes. Boris was telling me about it. He's like, you really watch cricket, like test cricket.
I watch test cricket and everything. Yeah.
What about football?
I watch football, but not as intensely as
Cricket.
all the
Or
boys.
racing.
Yeah. Like tonight's game, I will watch, and I wouldn't watch like I don't know Bournemouth against Fulham or something.
Well, yeah, no shit. But like, who do you support?
Chelsea. Yeah.
Okay, so you watch Chelsea games.
Yeah.
Okay, and you're in London, so that must work out. down
Yeah,
there.
I've gone for a few games because I live like 10 minutes from Stamford Bridge. So it's pretty.
Okay, so you said Max. What do you think makes him, a killer?
I just think what he's done since, I mean, he went from karting to Formula One within the space of 1 year.
Hmm.
So, firstly, that itself is unheard of. Then his performances in Formula One as a 17-year-old were mind-boggling. And I think his proven track record that even now, for example, without the best car, he's able to qualify on the front row. He's able to extract the most out of his car at all times. Wet, dry, sunny, cloudy, doesn't matter. Max is always there. So I think that's what makes.
He's got that steely-eyed, you just look at him and you're like, he's a killer, dude.
Yeah, he's cutthroat. He's not there to be anyone's friend. He's literally there to do his business, and yeah, that's about it.
What about goated racer?
It's very difficult, honestly, to say the goated racer. I think Senna is one, but I genuinely believe that Max is one of the goats.
He hasn't won enough though to be in the conversation, has he?
I mean, he's won more than Senna.
Before? That's true. But Senna is more like, he's like an icon, I think he's got that status about him. Because
I mean, he's won 3 World Championships. He's won, I don't know, 40 odd races now, Max, and he's only 26. So,
when do you think a racer, but I guess Hamilton's still racing, he's nearly 40, like you said. So Max, another 10 years of dominance, you foresee it?
I don't know. I think Max is the type of guy that he would just leave Formula One in 2
He'd rather like not be a loser.
Not that. I think he's actually a pure motorist, Max. He watches every form of motorsport. He'll watch while he's in the Formula One, he'll be watching like a Formula 4 race somewhere or go-kart race somewhere on his laptop.
He just loves it.
He just loves it. If he's not driving the car, he's driving on the simulator, He'll give up Formula One to go and do Porsche GT Cup somewhere in the world, because why not try something? I don't think he's going to hang around till he's in his late 30s. I think he will see how it's going.
Try to conquer something else.
Yeah. If the car is not good for 1 or 2 years, I think he'll just leave. And that's what he says. So.
Okay, that's interesting. All right, last question. You think even cars, even circumstances, do you think you can beat any racer in the world?
I think I could be as good as any of them. I mean, there are some circumstances where, like, I mean, there are guys like Max, you would think that it would be hard to beat over 20 races, but definitely there's some races that I do believe I could beat.
So if it came down to it, 1 lap, you rate yourself.
Yeah.
That's it, man.
Definitely.
That's the right mindset.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's end on that.
Thank you.
Cheers, brother.
Cheers, bro.
Loved
Thank
it.
you. Me too.
All right, guys. Let's wrap it up.